Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are strapping on our waders and stepping right into the shoes of environmental scientists. We're going to conduct an ecological health checkup on a really crucial body of water, the Punarbhava River. So let's just dive right in and see exactly what the data reveals about the life flowing beneath the surface. To really understand why scientists dedicated 6 intensive months to studying this river, we first have to understand the incredibly high stakes here. Because, you see, this river isn't just a scenic flow of water, it is a vital biological engine. As noted directly in the study we're unpacking today, the Punarbhava plays a significant role as a nursery ground for Indian major carps. And these fish, they are absolute lifelines. They support the livelihoods of fishermen all throughout the northern part of Bangladesh. If the river gets sick, the fish disappear, and a local economy and food supplies suffer a massive blow. So, here is our roadmap for today's checkup. 1. The river's vital role. 2. Conducting the ecological checkup. 3. Vital signs, water quality. 4. Plankton, the biological engine. 5. Diagnosing ecosystem threats. And finally, 6. A prescription for a sanctuary. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the river's vital role. So the Punarbhava River is a transboundary river that eventually winds its way through the Dinajpur district, spanning about 120 kilometers in total length within Bangladesh. This winding network is the foundation for just immense biological production. Every single year, huge quantities of fish are caught here. But here's the catch. Pun absolute. Incredibly meticulous. To get a truly accurate reading, the researchers didn't just, dip a cup in the water once a month. They went out and identified the 8 deepest pockets of the river to use as specific sampling sites. And this is a brilliant example of good scientific design. These sites were spaced exactly 1 kilometer apart, which gives us this beautiful cross-section of the waterway. Every 2 weeks, fortnightly, they tested the physical water parameters and took samples back to the lab to study the microscopic plankton populations under a binocular microscope. Okay, section 3, vital signs, water quality. When we're assessing a river's vital signs, dissolved oxygen, or DO, is pretty much paramount. For this ecosystem, the critical threshold you need to keep in mind is 5.00 milligrams per liter. If the DO drops below that mark, it's a massive red flag. It indicates dangerous pollution and highly stressful, sometimes lethal conditions for aquatic life. And when we actually look at the data charted across those 6 months, the vitals show some serious danger zones. Look at the sharp dips here. Researchers found the absolute lowest concentrations of dissolved oxygen right at Site 1 and Site 3. In fact, in July, Site 1 plummeted to some highly alarming levels. The researchers diagnosed these specific sites as having a much higher level of pollution. This is where the river is literally choking. This data also perfectly outlines a classic aquatic phenomenon. There's a negative correlation between water temperature and dissolved oxygen. Basically, as the water heated up, hitting a pretty toasty high of 34.5 degrees Celsius in May and July, the river physically couldn't hold as much life-giving oxygen. Long story short, the hotter the river gets, the harder it is for the fish to breathe. Which brings us to section 4, plankton, the biological engine. Because, well, even if a fish can breathe just fine, it still needs to eat, right? Plankton are the absolute basis of ecosystem functioning here. The data showed that phytoplankton saw their maximum abundance peak in September, while zooplankton hit their greatest numbers just slightly earlier, peaking across August and September. Think of these seasonal peaks as the all-you-can-eat buffets that those Indian major carps completely rely on to grow. When looking under the microscope, the researchers actually identified 45 different genera of these tiny life forms. Within the phytoplankton, the most dominant and diversified group was Chlorophyceae, while Cyanophyceae was the least dominant. On the zooplankton side of things, the river is pretty much ruled by Crustacea, followed closely by Rotifera. These biological groups are essentially the unseen heroes of the river, acting as the primary food source both directly and indirectly for the entire fishery resource of the region. Let's move on to section 5, diagnosing ecosystem threats. Now it's time for the sober reality of our diagnosis today. In the researchers' own words, the status of the Punarbhava is, well, not very encouraging. They pinpointed exactly what is currently suffocating the ecosystem. We're looking at severe drying up during the winter season, toxic agricultural fertilizers running right off the banks into the water, the physical disruption caused by unregulated sand unloading, and just widespread anthropogenic, meaning human-caused, disturbances. Day by day, these unplanned activities are pushing the river's vital resources into a steep decline. But there is a path forward. Section 6, Prescription for a Sanctuary. The patient is sick, yes, but it is not terminal, at least not yet. Out of all 8 sites monitored over those 6 grueling months, the data pointed clearly to one specific location, site number 6. The scientists highlight this exact 1-kilometer stretch as the ultimate, optimal recommendation for establishing a protected fish sanctuary. So why Site 6? Well, if we review the vitals we just went over, Site 6 passes with flying colors. It maintained optimum to maximum levels of dissolved oxygen, meaning aquatic life can actually thrive there without stress. It also proved to have a very high availability of those crucial plankton food sources we talked about. And physically, it maintains a consistently high water depth, which protects the fish even when other parts of the river start to dry up in the winter. It literally has the perfect vital signs to serve as a healthy, safe nursery for the whole ecosystem. Establishing a sanctuary at Site 6 is a fantastic first step, but obviously it requires real awareness and proper management policy to actually work in the real world. Which leaves us with this final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder. How can we implement management techniques that actually balance our daily human industry with the absolute survival of this vital ecological lifeline? Because as the data clearly shows, we rely heavily on the river, but right now, the river is relying on us to protect it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I will catch you on the next deep dive.